Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Electric Zine Maker. I guess my name is Michael,
I'm Amanda.
and Electric Zine Maker is a art tool, as you can see right in front of you, that we found on Itch some time ago, and it is really fun to play around with to make zines, but it can be a little tricky to learn how everything works. So we've been making digital zines for a little while now. Love this art tool because it's great for sort of improvisational artistic layout projects, and we wanted to share some of the tips and tricks and working methods that we've come across that we love, and maybe you'll love them too.
It's very unintimidating. It's very welcoming to play with this thing because, you've got a little friendly potato telling you what everything is, which helps.
So it starts by asking how many pages do you want your zine to be. Obviously, it's designed with an eye towards print because any one of these templates can actually be printed out on paper and folded, and there's instructions for how to fold it to make the zine. We tend to make digital zines, so we just pick based on how many pages we feel like filling our projects. So for today, we're just going to use an 8-page folded zine, the classic right off the top. So here we are. This gives you the page layout. It actually gives you a little bit of a preview of what it would look like on print and where it would be folded.
And cut.
And cut. In order to start laying stuff out, all you got to do is click on one of these pages. So let's come up with a cover. So on the right is the page itself. This is your workspace. On the left top row are the functional buttons, the ability to save this page and go back to that overlay to undo or redo, or just blank the whole page if you've really messed up badly. And then there's a bunch of tools. So we can walk through the color fill, pretty basic. Pick a color off of the color gradient area, and it'll fill the entire space. Both pen and spray work kind of similarly, where you're picking the size of your drawing and then having at it.
Yeah, you know how pen and erase probably work. You probably are familiar with how smudge works in most programs. But there's some different stuff in here, like here's pattern spray.
So you start by drawing a pattern. Wow, that's a fat pattern.
Yeah, the pen size for this is here. So let's just draw like a hi.
Just write the word hi.
All right, and then you get lots of highs. And it's random size and notation and rotation by default, but if you turn that off, then you get kind of a roller coaster high.
Yeah, it literally prints out your pattern and then keeps printing them out as you drag it. You can also load other images. You don't have to draw your own. If you want to sort of turn this into a stamp, you can import an image from somewhere else and it'll turn it into a pattern, which is kind of fun. So we threw together a folder full of some photos that we took, some comic panels we scanned, some stuff that we just found on the internet. And there you go. Import an image, you could stamp it. I think you can do the same drag trick as well. So you get some really interesting effects just messing around with a couple easy tools. And we've just barely dipped our toes in, folks. We're looking at the first 4 tools. The little arrows show us that there's multiple pages of these.
So there's a Smoosher. Most photo software has this now, but this is very fun to play with. Just kind of goosh things up.
It's one way to make sure that it's unrecognizable from what it was originally. Turn it into interesting patterns and shapes.
Yeah. You can make it rugged or smooth. You can change the size and so forth. There's a lot of options.
So
we're going to cancel this, though.
Not liking how that's turning out?
Or just restart. Start over, do some more squishing. Okay, I'll accept that. We'll come back to these two because these are complicated. But glass stamps is pretty straightforward. You get a stamp pattern, you stamp it, it kind of distorts what's under it as if it were under glass. And then you can also draw with that. So, woo, spin, 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 spin.
Gross.
Well, if you don't like it. It's a pretty forgiving tool most of the time. There's a lot of different sort of undo, reset options in the different tools. I think that looks cool.
I think a big part of its appeal for us is both there are just so many toys to play with and so many little settings. We may not know what it means to change squeeze from 1.1 to 5 or 100. We don't even know what the scale is, but you can just sort of move something around, stamp it out, see if you like it. If you don't, undo it. Go find something else. And we've found that it makes us less precious about creating stuff. So a lot of times, you know, if you have any sort of an artistic temperament, sometimes you just get hung up on your own sense of expectations about what you expect from yourself when you start a new project. You know, like, well, maybe I'm not even going to bother to create, you know, a little zine to share with folks because if I do it, I got to make sure it looks good. I want it to be something that I'm proud of, so I just know I'm going to spend too much time worrying about font choices and trying to get things to align and making sure that everything looks clean. And coming in here, you're given permission to let those expectations that you have for yourself go for a little while and just get back to that pure active creation through play.
Right. It's like, you know, if you say, I'm only going to draw with crayons. Well, now you know that it's going to look like a crayon drawing no matter what you do.
So some of the pressure's off.
So it doesn't have to look like an oil painting, right? You have given yourself an artistic limit that keeps you from expecting yourself to come up with something brilliant and lets you accidentally stumble into creating something brilliant, maybe.
That doesn't mean you have to start by making brightly colored worms like we're doing. Let's start over entirely, because I also want to show it's not just finger painting with pudding either. Like, you can do more stuff here. Let's import an image.
Aw. Alright, fine. Alright, we're going to import. What do you think? What do you want for a cover?
How about the It's Okay potato bag?
Okay. That's going to be a very weird proportion on here.
Right. So if you pick to place an image full, if it's not the same dimensions, it's going to get compressed into
I like how it looks, though.
It looks pretty decent. If you ever want to resize anything, though, one tip that it took us a while to figure out, your best bet is always to grab the lower right. Grabbing any of the other touch points, you can struggle with it. We get the best sense of responsiveness out of the lower right corner.
Or the
rightmost.
And the bottom.
Anchors. But like the upper left, that's pretty much where it's kind of pinned into place.
Yeah, it doesn't like to resize from the left or the top.
Mm-hmm. So always go bottom right, especially grab that if you need to resize it. You are not limited by the dimensions of the page. We can grab this image and pull it off to the side, and it'll be bigger than the page. Just know that it'll, as soon as you click done, it'll trim it back to the page size. So anything outside the borders will disappear.
Yeah, this is not sophisticated enough to remember all your layers, like your Photoshops.
Mm-hmm. But we could actually like make this bigger and then drag it left off the left side, right? Like when we're saying it's pinned, that's only when you're grabbing the anchors. But if you move it to the left and then grab that lower right anchor, drag it bigger, the page is still under there. We're just going to get a crop as soon as we hit OK. So there's a little bit of guesswork. You got to remember where the page is under there, but click done. If you're like, that looks pretty good, great. You didn't like it, maybe it's a little bit off. You want to be picky, import the image again. Try one more time. Why not?
Yeah. There it is. But I liked it the first time. I think this is fine.
Cool. So here's our start. I guess our zine is going to be called It's Okay. This little chef giving a thumbs up on a potato bag that I saw in the grocery store. Like, that guy knows what's up. And maybe I just needed a little bit of comfort that day. I needed someone to tell me, via potato, things are going to work out.
And, very apropos to the theme of the overall program, too.
So what are some of our other tools that we can play around with?
Well, the Perlin brush and the Perlin chalk both create sort of a noise brush. Mm-hmm. So like you said, they're sort of a multicolor fuzz generator. Your opinion of its usefulness may vary from ours. It's not something we use very often. But this one's kind of neat because it makes a sort of a trail that stays.
And it commits the moment you let go of your mouse.
Yep.
So you can just sort of drag it around and stop when you feel like you got it somewhere good.
Right. So if we wanted to have like some shooting stars coming around here,
Oh, yeah. Maybe around his hand, like the power of the okay being granted.
Yeah, and I'm not letting go, so I'm not committing any of this yet. And I just kind of go around until I like the way it looks. Like that.
Sure, that looks good.
Yeah.
So we've added a little highlight.
Yeah.
What else we got?
Oh, so much.
That's great.
I gotta put more.
A little more in the frame?
Yeah. Okay. We have a soft brush, which is just the same kind of deal as the Perlin chalk, a kind of a trailing thing that doesn't, again, commit until you let go of it. So, right. Yep.
You can change the size of it with the number on the left.
Right.
Some of the sizes are like on a sliding ruler. Sometimes it's a number. So just keep an eye over on the left if you want to change its intensity.
Runny ink.
That looks like, if a movie, the film starts burning because the film gets stuck in front of the projector and it just burns through.
Yeah, but you can change the color and then you've got kind of you can see how it's supposed to be sort of ink that's spreading out, like an ink blot.
Like it's a 2D plane.
Yeah, but not so much a look we want for this page, so I think
maybe not for the cover.
Move on. Custom ink. So this is, you can make this more transparent, which is kind of a difference for it.
That's what alpha is?
Yeah, alpha is transparency. So, yeah, I mean, that's a nice little pen sort of thing.
Alternative to the default pen, I guess.
Yeah, and then this one runs out as you draw with it, so it gets a little tail. That's kind of fun. If you wanted to make the fade rate sort of faster, then you could get little comma shapes. Actually, I think that might...
No, 2 might have gone in the other direction.
Yeah, I think you need to make it larger. Make it like 20. Yeah.
There, now it runs out of ink faster.
Yeah, now you get like a comma. So that's kind of a fun thing to play with.
We're showing you all the tools right now, not necessarily the ones that we use the most. We're just on the tour, and that's some of why we're like, I don't remember how low ink works. Because honestly, we don't do a lot of drawing in our projects with just a mouse. Sometimes we'll, put some color accents here and there.
Yeah.
And maybe that's your aesthetic. Maybe you're just a lot better at drawing with a mouse, or maybe you're using a tablet, an actual pen, like a proper professional.
Yeah.
But mostly we're in here mucking about, importing some images and then putting some interesting filters and patterns on them until it looks good and messed up in a way that appeals to us.
So this dotted leaves dots depending on how fast you move, like further apart dots if you go fast, close together if you move slow. We'll skip Scream Under the Void for now because that's also... Or should we do it now?
Sure.
All right, we'll do this now. This ruins everything, just so you know.
Yeah, it turns out Screaming into the Void is... it's where you offer your artwork to the void.
Yeah. Are you haunted by your own genius? Tormented by the pursuit for pure artistic authenticity? Maybe more? Scream into the void. And you can hear it actually is screaming. And it will continue to scream, so that's fun.
Yep, that was good. Felt good.
But yeah, this just, I'm going to do it again.
It
Brace yourself. It just makes a mess. All right, all right, all right. Moving on, moving on, moving on. Okay.
it'd probably be better to show off bacon and eggs on a blank texture.
Okay, well...
Can I just set this page aside and start a new page?
We'll save and return to menu. And we'll go to the back.
Pretend like we're doing a back cover now?
Sure. Mm-hmm. All right, go to bacon. Oh, it's too small to see. Bigger bacon. There you go. You can see. You can see how that's bacon, right?
So it's composed of the 4 colors that you can see in the color sets, just to the left of the color gradient.
Right. So if you want green eggs and ham, I guess you could go...
You could change the colors, each of the component colors, yeah. And then draw your own stripe combinations.
There you go. Green eggs and ham. Here's the eggs. These need to be bigger. Now these are scrambled eggs, I guess. Not so much
thrown eggs.
Thrown eggs.
A lot of streaky yolk.
But these again are good things for just like making some marks where you're not trying to draw something beautiful. You're just trying to get something down on the page that looks interesting.
Sometimes you'll just set down a base layer and then you'll start applying some of the color filters. And it can be interesting to see what these transform into. Mm-hmm. So I guess one thing that we would stress is don't always come into this tool having expectations of what you're going to make. You can get a lot out of just pure discovery and mucking about, seeing what a tool does, seeing what a couple do in concert.
Yeah, it's fun to play with it like it's a toy first and foremost, and then if you make something with it that you like, then start saving it, and that's great. Toast is like a little burner, so it sort of changes things. Usually it makes them darker, but here it's not so much. Oh, there we go. That makes things much darker.
Ooh, I like what it's transforming those colors into, though.
Yeah, this is neat. See, so we had no idea it was going to do this, but now that we're doing it, it's pretty cool. Let's do the whole page like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've discovered something we like. We're just going to go with it. Now it looks like you're looking at it through a microscope.
A microscope straight into, like, these are the bacteria that make up a Tron person. For like, oh, my fishing simulator has a cold. I'm going to take a sample and put it under a microscope. Uh-huh. I can see the problem right here. We're going to need to get you some digital antibiotics.
We're going to have to debug you.
Honestly, it's fantastic looking.
Yeah, I love it.
It's got depth now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, look, you can make it brighter when you go over it again.
Nice. Who knew?
We had no idea that tool could even do that.
This sort of discovery could happen to you.
You know what? Since we like that, let's save it.
Okay. That's the back cover.
All right. And,
you see how easy it is to make a zine?
Okay. So that was Toast. There's ASCII Paint.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a sort of a throw around some letters. Which all of this stuff, if nothing else, is good for. It's no longer a blank page that's intimidating to mess with, right?
Yeah, there's nothing scarier than a white page, except perhaps a dancing skeleton. Also pretty scary.
Skeletons hold your body together. Without them, you would be a puddle. I agree. My only choice is to just agree with that. Mm-hmm. So I guess I will. So we've got some blocks. This is kind of an interesting thing because it's on a grid. So if you go over it, it doesn't like layer on top. It replaces it because it's actually generating this as a text file.
Like you can export it to a text file if you need it in some other fashion.
Yeah. So that can be kind of fun. There's goldfish. Splash around in your art. This is cute. This is actually a really nice ripple effect.
Right?
Like, it really looks like water. So, even though it's a toy who it's sort of like a virtue of its crudity in some respects, some parts of this are kind of sophisticated. Like, this is a very nice ripple effect. I like this better than the one that's in Photoshop.
I think it's deceptively simple.
Yeah. But there's some stuff going into this that's got real thought and art behind it.
Mm-hmm. So this is the draw mode where it sort of follows the mouse as if your mouse is moving through water. There's also a splash mode, which I forget. Is that like it adds more radial motion?
It's that everything continues to move for as long
After you're gone. It's not just a wake.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I can draw up here and it makes splashes, and then if I draw down here, the splashes at top keep moving as I'm doing the ones at the
They're
bottom.
still propagating. Yeah. And you can also turn on rain effects.
Yes. So now it's going to
There's
raindrops all over it, which is kind of cute. So we have completely obliterated the
original ASCII, except for a couple
ASCII.
letters here and there.
Yeah, which is nice. I like it. So, accept that. Rainbow paint is just going to cycle through the colors. See?
The 6 colors that have been chosen.
Right. So you can change those colors if you like, and it will go through a different rainbow. And that's kind of fun. Gift brush is one that you like a lot.
I do like this one a lot. So you grab yourself, let's grab maybe number 2. Yeah. The Dole frozen popsicle image.
All right, we're going to make it smaller.
So it loads an animated GIF, and the animated GIF will just keep cycling over and over again. If you just left click once, you stamp out whatever frame it's on at the moment that you make the stamp. If you hold the left mouse, you can actually draw with it, and you sort of, get some nice smear effects from the border, which I think is kind of a really cool way to get some patterns done. And another thing that I've used the animated GIF brush for is like painting borders and backgrounds sometimes. I'll take a particularly dark one. Can you click load an animated GIF again?
Mm-hmm.
And this time maybe, one of the dark Fibes ones. If you drag Fibes along, you can get a black stripe because the sides are black. And then there's just like a little Fibes at the bottom. But, you can cover that up with something else. So you can sort of turn a GIF into like not a pure brush. If you just wanted to make everything black, you could use a fill or something, or make your pen enormous and fill it in black. But the fact that it stutters on the animation and sometimes has frames of what you were using, I think gives you some kind of cool effects.
Mm-hmm.
If by any chance you have downloaded a collection of animated GIFs for later use.
Yeah. Whee!
You could pretend you won a game of old Microsoft Solitaire that was somehow played with popsicles.
Wow, that's a deep cut. So this is it's comparatively simple, but it's just, you draw a circle, it fills it in. You draw a shape, it fills it in.
The line is the top color, the fill is the bottom color. So if you want to, make a blue box that's always full of green, you could do that. And as ever, you could pick the colors off the color gradient patch.
Yep. So we're back to the start.
Those are the basics. So now let's show off the things that we go back to the well and use over and over again when we're designing a page. A lot of the times, the two of us also write. So we sometimes do start off with a pool of small text pieces that we know we want to put in at some point. We just need a visual background or accompaniment or a way to create a frame to incorporate it. Other times we draft right onto the page if we're also improvising that part. So a lot of times we'll start with something like what you can see here, an image, a pattern, and then we just start messing with it until it looks interesting. So we're using which tool right now?
This is Blend and Displace. And if you've used Photoshop or a program like Photoshop, this is going to be like your layer effects, but much more limited so that you don't kind of get hung up on things as much. Like, there's only so much you can do with this, but you can do some pretty cool things, and working within the limitations can, again, be kind of freeing.
So we took our animated GIF background, and right now we're layering in a photo of a roadside statue of a dinosaur. But by picking difference, you kind of created a dinosaur sorcerer. It looks like, because now the lines look like some sort of fire effect around its face, which is kind of fun.
Uh-huh. So hard light combines them in a more hard-edged way that keeps the original colors together. Invert, whoa, goes all over the place.
The dinosaur disappears when you do that.
Yeah, more or less. Just lightening, but since this picture of the dinosaur is lighter in every way than the background, except for in these little parts. Those are the only parts that remain. Multiply just combines them. So all the dark parts go very dark. Overlay is more complicated. Screen is a little more complicated, but you can just kind of see.
Just click through and see what they look like.
What they look like.
You don't have to know what's actually happening as far as the math and the light. I couldn't tell you what any of them mean, and I do just fine in here.
Well, I mean, I think it's useful to know that invert, like, inverts them so that the blacks become white, the reds become, and the reds become greens. And difference instead is doing some kind of division so that you usually will get more interesting effects with difference because it's combining them in a weirder way that's more complicated. So, like you say, we get like a sort of a weird fire sorcerer effect here. It's almost like he's got little wings.
Yeah. There was one of the other ones, I think maybe it was hard light or lighten, where it looked like we were giving the fruit teeth. But I would want to crop the whole image just to keep the citrus fruit with the teeth.
There it is.
Yeah, like there. Got a weird little face generated.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's kind of fun.
But it's very small and it's very dark. So that's just for us. Wouldn't make the final zine.
Yeah. We'll just do sorcerer dinosaur.
The sorcerer
for
dinosaur?
now, yeah.
Okay.
And I also just find that you can get a lot of mess it up in an interesting way effects with this by doing stuff like this with pictures that are, less imagery and more sort of textures or things like that. This has got an image of a tower in it, obviously, but did I put anything in here that was just a texture?
That was just a texture? I don't think so. But you could maybe try the pinball table at the bottom.
Like this one?
Yeah, maybe.
So yeah, this kind of messes it up in another interesting way.
Also worth noting, you can still grab the image that is being overlaid and change its size if you only want to cover part of the new image.
Yeah, you can do this fun thing. Reverse.
You can flip it. Yep.
Once you have flipped it, what used to be the right is still the only thing you can grab.
It's still the best handle to grab. Yeah. So don't lose that corner.
Yeah. Oh, and you can also blur this. Give me a 10 here.
100?
No.
Yeah, 10.
So now, cool. Now it's kind of getting jazzy, right?
Now I think we have like a 90s shoegaze CD cover, maybe.
And then these things will just wreck it. So let's go ahead and wreck it. Whoa!
Awesome.
All over the place. Just kind of off the page a little bit.
Mm-hmm. You can still see the word lit in the lower left from the pinball.
So if you put it in wrap mode, then when it skips around, it will wrap it so the top goes to the bottom. That's what wrap mode is. So you end up with this fun film strip effect almost. Ooh, now it's getting crazy.
Looks like it was shattered. Like
Mhm.
something went through it at high speed.
Yep. Yep. Wrap. Okay. What do you think? Do you want to keep this craziness, or do you want to go back to just sorcerer or dinosaur?
No, this is fine.
All right.
Because I think maybe what we'll do next is show some of our text tricks.
Okay. All right. What are we going to call this guy?
Or what is this? Page 1 of the zine?
This is, yeah. This is inside of the cover page, so sure. Page 1-ish.
Here, we just pretend that this is where we're going to put credits.
All right.
So it's going to give you a list of all the fonts on your system. If you have a lot of fonts, sorry. Because you just have up and down arrows to navigate. So you may find that you get much more familiar with the fonts at the top of your list.
Or at the bottom, because you can go backwards.
You can wrap. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, there's... The way that it reads your fonts is like if you've got a lot of different subversions of fonts, it will show each of them separately. It's not the best handling of fonts as far as like being able to navigate through them comfortably. On the other hand, it's very transparent what you're clicking on. Except if the fonts have not been named super well, then
sometimes you get 3 things that look like they're called Pacifica, and you got to click on them to find out which is which.
Yeah. So is it Pacifica or Pacifica or Pacifica? Right.
So we just recommend you enjoy the voyage of discovery.
Yep.
Other tricks, the font size is set manually over on the left. You just type in whatever font size you want the thing to be. If there is a width, you can sort of see 300 pixels wide is not the full width. So if you need something to get a little wider, you can change the text panel width. You can also make things narrower, obviously. Ooh, that's nice. Let's do that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it looks like, you've inserted a quarter and you got a credit.
Okay.
Dig it. So that's one. Once you've selected your font, you can choose the color. I forget. Does it also let you, if you mouse over the image, does it let you pick like a color off the image? There's not an eyedropper on this particular thing, is there?
No.
Wait, is it the color to the right of the color button?
This?
Yeah, no, that's just what's selected.
Yeah.
And the color button also changes.
Right. So this is like to compare what you're doing now with the next option.
Mm-hmm.
So that like I want it to be a little more orange than what I had before.
Yeah.
Now I can see
the
what
color
I had before.
button changes to match whatever you're mousing over.
Yeah.
And the one on the right is the current selected color.
Yeah.
Cool. A really fun and easy thing that you can do once you get tired of the limitations of just putting a single text layer on, is we have found that you can get some cool looks by doing layered text. The trick is you have to remember to do the same thing every time. So,
also, sorry, not to interrupt you, but this font is not suitable for it. So if you're going to demonstrate that, we need you to pick a different font.
all right, pick a different font. There, this one.
Okay.
So the only trick is when you save this, when you click done and save it, and come back on your next text box, it is going to remember your font, but it's not going to remember the other settings, so I hope you remember them.
80 and 350.
And 350.
Credits.
I usually do a quick Control-C before hitting D so that I can paste that right back in there. And then you make one that is exactly the same look as the other one, and you do like a little offset, and boom, we've given it a little drop shadow in a color.
So this becomes important when, sort of like you can see here, there's a lot of colors going on behind this. So it might be hard to read this if it was just on top of everything by itself. like the colors behind it sort of interrupt the line of the text and make it harder to read. So giving it a drop shadow sort of helps it get a little background that gives it a place to be read more legibly, even though there's a lot of noise behind it. And if just a drop shadow is not enough to do it, sometimes we'll go ahead and make several of the darker areas first. So like this, and then done.
Yep.
And then 80. Oh, it doesn't actually need to be wider with this font. So now
That's fine.
I kind of put it in the middle of all this green.
And we've got a fatter shadow.
Yeah, and it's like an outline all around it, so that it's nice and
so just by offsetting them, right, left, up, down, it's also kind of interesting to see what it's like if you put a dark now on top of this light. So you've got the dark shadows, the bright yellow, and if we put another dark on top of this.
80.
Yep.
All right, and then
go dark again. Look at that. Now we're cooking.
And this again is where like the limitations of the software are kind of enabling you to be more creative than you might be otherwise. Because if you were doing this in Photoshop or something like that,
or Affinity Photo,
which is our image software of choice, you could just pick a layer effect that gives it a stroke around the text, and it would automatically draw a line around it, and that would be it.
You'd be tempted to leave it on default.
Yeah, you would probably leave it on a default, or just mess with the stroke a little bit. But because there's no stroke here, there's no other way to set your font off or your text off from the background. You've got to find different ways to do it, and in the course of experimenting to find ways to do it, you end up with some kind of neat effects. Like, I think this looks really cool, and also it looks like a credit card in a way, which is fun for the word credits. So we ended up sort of blundering into something cool there.
Real quick, there's also a left, right, center alignment. Since you're going to be physically placing them, you don't always have to worry too much about that. Unless you're doing paragraph length text, then it can be important. Also, rotation is available. It can be really interesting to add. Do you want to do like one more layer that's off by 1? It can be interesting to put something at a rotation of -1 or +1, and then adding that to the layer, because you get some really interesting feels from it not quite lining up with the other one.
I don't love that, but
but maybe you will.
Yeah.
Mess around with it.
But what we can do is type in like a few things, like my name, your name, Michael, Amanda, yeah, we're going to need to make it smaller, huh? Okay. So like 50.
40?
Yeah, 40 is good, yeah. All right. Yeah, and so there you've got left, right, center. Go ahead and make the rotation like more dramatic. Yeah, you can make it on a slant a little bit more.
Oh, what if we wanted to line it up with that streak that's going through the dinosaur's head?
That's great.
So maybe like fun. A -7.
Yeah, try that.
-8.
Yeah,
there we go.
That looks pretty good.
And -9.
Okay.
I think we're really close. Can you click back in the box? Like so. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty good. And again, we're going to have to come back in here. So we're going to need to remember 40, 300 minus 9.
Or we would if we were serious about this. But you get it. We've spent a lot of time on text.
That's true.
Let's mess around with something else. We'll show you some of the other things that we're fond of doing.
All right. Let's go ahead and save this one and start with another page. And we'll place an image. Just start with the first one here.
Sure. A photo that I took in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Sleep is our business.
That's adorable. All right, let's see how that crops. Pretty great.
Pretty good, pretty good.
All right. So let's mess it up.
Yep. What are we going to blend in?
Maybe we'll do your luchador.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we'll do this black and white portrait. That's
interesting.
Weird. Alright, so you kind of flip through here and see if there's... See that? Just...
Nightmare Sky.
Nightmare Sky, yeah. Just flipped the colors. That's kind of fun. Lighten is kind of interesting. I don't know. That makes it sort of faded out. That's sort of cool. Ooh, subtract. Alright, let's try this and put a blur on it of 10.
So now it's just kind of become a pattern in the sky, but it's not so noticeable on the rest of it.
Yeah, and maybe we make it bigger. So now you've kind of got a person's shape in there, very vaguely. Right.
That's something.
That's something. It messed it up in an interesting way. Let's just go with that, because why not?
Mm-hmm.
Because what I really want to show off now is the color factory.
Oh boy. There is so much fun in the color factory, folks.
Yes.
It manages all your color needs.
So one that we use a lot and love is RGB Shift, which is like if you've ever seen things that were printed back in the day poorly, that had
where the plates were misaligned for the colors that were supposed to come together.
Right. That is the effect here. They've separated out the colors and they've misaligned them. And you can kind of see by the numbers how they are all misaligned, and you can adjust them if you want.
So it's X and Y axis, X obviously horizontal, Y vertical. So if all of these were very small numbers, they would still look pretty close to how they were when they started. The bigger the number, the further it has moved either horizontally or vertically. A lot of times we'll just come in here and click random slowly and see if anything looks super interesting when it settles out. As with anything that you're giving up to random chance, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think this is fun, and I would probably go with this, except I want to show off some other stuff. So I'm going to cancel out of this. And then there is Color Transform.
Color Transform is a lot of fun to hit random on.
This is very complex. To the point that I can't, like, I kind of intuitively know how these numbers work, but I cannot explain it.
So it tells us that the multiplier range, which is the first column, should be between 0 and 1. And that the offset range goes from negative 255 to positive 255. And honestly, we've changed them. We don't always understand what they do.
Yeah, like you can make that 6 and it works.
Right, it's supposed to be, I can't even put a dot in here, so it seems like, should it be either 0 or 1? Don't know.
Well, I mean, but make it 6 and you can see that it still works.
It does something.
It does something.
What if we put 100? It does something.
Yeah, it does something.
So, click random a few more times. We'll see if we can find something interesting. Ooh.
Yeah. Oh.
She really stood out for a second there.
Yeah.
I will say that if you're real quick on the draw, because sometimes it's just full colors, try to fight that urge, because sometimes something will strike you the moment that you've clicked it away, and you can't go back.
Yeah, that's a bummer. So
give yourself a chance to absorb each of the ones that comes by.
Yeah, I'm clicking kind of quickly because we're demonstrating, but that's kind of nice.
That's interesting.
I like
Keep
this
that.
one. Yeah. All right. So convolution. This is another one where I sort of like intuitively can get what these numbers do, but I cannot explain it.
Honestly, random is your friend. Look at that neon color.
Yeah, crazy.
We lose the lady in the back, but honestly, those were some tasty colors.
Yeah, that's neat. One of the things that I like to do, and this is like next level complicated a little bit, but like you like these colors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to apply. I'm going to accept. Export this panel. So this is my panel, you know.
Tasty colors.
All right.
We'll put a plus on it so it'll stay at the top.
All right. And then, oops. Okay. We did need to put a dot PNG, I think, after that, but we can fix that later.
It.
All right. So we've exported that. Undo.
Yep.
So now we've got that saved. So if we want to do something with it, we can. But I'm going to go from here, right? And see what else we can get. But that's a way to sort of like, ooh, I think this is neat.
Yeah, that denim look in the sky is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a shame we lose that yellow tint from the other thing we did, but this is cool.
What other tools can we hit?
Oh, there's so many.
We're probably not going to remember to show you everything, just so you know. There's a lot in here. I guess at the end of the day, if we've taught you this is a cool toy to play with, and we convince you to go drag some images in here and run them through some filters and maybe do some drawing on top, that's a win. Shake the cobwebs out creatively, make yourself a little book, print it out if you want to print it out. We'll have a link to a tool you can use made by someone named Jeffrey Oduber. There is an HTML toolkit that allows you to turn these into digital zines that can be viewed in a browser. Those can be hosted up on a website. We put ours up on itch.io. Just for kicks, you can read them all there. Download them if you want. And the mirror tool is pretty slick.
Mm-hmm. If you click down, it just moves it out from the mirrored area.
Yep.
Very...
So you've made a frame, and then you could put text in the middle.
Yep. You can do a lot. So, you know what? I'm gonna keep that. I think that's nice. This is just another sort of noise creator. And this is grow hair.
It makes everything look fuzzier.
Yeah.
It has all grown hair. You have caterpillared the world.
It's nice for giving it sort of an artistic, soft, drawn look almost.
Mm-hmm. So you know that blend and displace tool that we messed around with a lot? Another thing that you can do is if you take a photo, bring it into the color factory, muck it up like this, you can go back to blend and displace and bring the original back in as another layer and then sort of see how well it plays with what you turned it into.
So we're going to do that a little bit with my panel that I just made. So this is the fuzzy version.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to bring it in as a layer and say, oh, see, now all that hair that we grew.
It's still there, but the sign is still legible too because you've got the two different images interacting.
Ooh. Now it's kind of got a weird glow.
This looks like one of those deep AI programs made it, honestly, where you described what a sign should look like outside a hotel, and they're like, I understand human.
All right. Interesting. Load another. Yeah. So, I don't know. There's a lot of cool things that you can do here. You can always hit undo if you don't love it.
So let's start a new page.
All right.
Good old page 5, sure. Doesn't matter. Import any of the images. All right, little luchador guy. Good enough. And I think the last thing that we want to show you on the tour is the Enterobang tool.
Yeah.
So this is, as it says, the authenticity tool. This is how you make your images look like proper zines. If you want to go pure punk aesthetic, you can pick from the first two and it removes all the color. Otherwise, these are all sorts of interesting ways to drop out colors, drop out pixels, and just really make things look gritty and awesome.
So to me, these like the monochrome and desaturate, the bad halftones, the better halftones. This stuff is sort of your classic print zine messed up stuff.
Yeah, it looks like you printed it on your mom's office printer and it's starting to run out of ink, but it's free, so.
But when you get into like the pixel art and the reduced colors, this is more like old web zines, which is also
it looks
very
like
cool.
something that was like condensed and put on a CD-ROM. So
Yes.
It's in your Encarta encyclopedia from 1991.
Yeah.
And it's being displayed on a printer that's like heavier than 3 babies. You all know how much a baby weighs, right? So like imagine 3 of those, and that's what monitors were like.
Hey, this is my secret space. Oh.
There's all sorts of fun little secrets hidden all throughout this tool as well. Sometimes if you tab your way through, you'll find mysterious hidden things that you can interact with. Oh, now it's getting annoyed at you.
Oh, it's happy again.
Your friends again. But I think that's pretty much all the big stuff, right? So let's go back to the main pages again. So once you've got your zine put together, you've got all your pages filled in. One thing that you should have been doing all along is saving. So let's point out that at the very top, you'll see it says desktop/zines and then a my zine and today's date. You should be calling this the name of your zine. It's okay. And then hitting save probably every time you come back out of the page that you've been editing. And what it's going to do is it's going to make a folder and it's going to automatically label the images inside that folder named after the pages. When you're ready to print, there's a giant print button. You also have the option to export it as a PDF, which is one of the things that we do. We like having a little digital book. You could just export individual images if you want to. The how to fold teaches you how to make the physical zines. But a lot of times, go ahead and click PDF. I think that's where we spend most of our time, right? Yeah, we usually output the book as a digital book for online sharing. And then there's that HTML5 template that we talked about, Jeremy Oduber. Awesome little tool. Definitely check that out. That's what will allow you to make a digital zine and put it up online.
That's readable through the web browser.
Yeah.
You don't have to download it as a PDF.
Exactly. You can read it in place on the page. So we would call, I guess it's already called book_it's okay. We would be like, it's okay, the zine.
.pdf.
No.
Oh, god damn it.
Look, if a computer can't figure out what a PDF is, I can't help it. It's 2022. What else? Loading a zine if you come back to one later, just know that loading is a little bit tricky. You kind of have to open the Electric Zine Maker to a blank template and then go into the folder that has all your saved images, your zine folder named after your zine. Select all the images and drag them into the page templates and they'll auto rearrange themselves and you can start again. And then just keep your eye on that zines / thing to make sure that it's saving into the same folder every time. Those are a couple tricks that have caught us out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's probably all we need to tell you today. By no means comprehensive, but hopefully intriguing enough that you'll get out there and make your own zines. Any final thoughts?
This is a lot of fun to play with, even if you never make a zine out of it. It's just a fun, creative tool to get in there, mess up some images, maybe get some inspiration to do other things too. Just fun to play with, fun to make things with. Yeah, definitely make some zines.
So thanks, Natalie Lawhead, for making this and giving us a playground to play around in. Good luck, everybody.